Hello, this is Tom English again, and today we want to talk about fractions. And fractions is one of the two ways that we use to represent numbers or whose value is less than 1. Anything 1 or above, we talk about whole numbers. Anything less than 1, we talk about fractions, or another way to represent those values are decimals. But we're going to talk about fractions today. And we're going to start with just the basics. If we look at, typically, we use, most students, I think, are familiar with when they're talking fractions of looking at a pizza. And we tend to cut the pizza down the middle when we first get it out of the oven. And what the fraction is saying, that each part of that pizza would be represented by the fraction 1/2. And the two parts of a fraction are the numerator, which is the number at the top, the numerator, and the bottom is called the denominator. Now, the reason for the denominator, that represents how many equal parts the item has been divided into. Okay, in the case of the pizza, we say there's 2 equal parts, and that's important to remember, that they're equal parts, and that each half would be represented by 1 out of 2 equal parts. So that would be 1/2. Let's pretend this is a stick of candy, and let's split it into 4 equal parts. Then each of those parts would be represented by the fraction 1/4. This is 1 out of 4 equal parts. Again, the denominator represents the number of parts that the value 1 has been divided into. If you look at a typical clock, we have from 1 o'clock to 12 o'clock, and we have divided that circle into 12 equal parts. So if we're looking at the time, let's say it's 3 o'clock, well, then we'd say that portion of the clock would be 3 over 12. 12 being the number of parts that it has been divided into equally, and we're representing 3 of those 12. Now, one of the first things that students have to learn is how to reduce fractions. And by reducing, we're talking about getting them into their lowest form. By the lowest form, we're saying that, is there a number that will go into both the numerator and denominator that we can divide both of those by, and that will then result in another fraction that is equal in value, but in a different form, and it's called the lowest form. In this case, I hope you can look at that and say, well, 3 will go into both 3 and 12. And if we divide both the numerator and the denominator by 3, if we divide the numerator by 3, we're going to get a 1. If we divide the denominator by 3, we're going to get a 4. So we can say that 3/12 is equal to 1/4, and that is a fraction in its lowest form. We can't go any lower than a 1 in the numerator. So one of the things that we want to be able to do is convert fractions, whether we're raising them to a higher level denominator or a lower level denominator. We want to be able to convert fractions so that they're of equal value, and that's the key. One of the things that you want to remember about fractions is, whatever you do to the numerator, let's take a fraction 4 over 10. And we look at that fraction, we say, well, oh, I can divide both the 4 and the 10 by the number 2. So if we divide 4 by 2 and we divide 10 by 2, we're not changing the value at all, because we're changing 2 over 2 we know is a value of 1. 1 times anything is the same thing. Anything divided by 1, you're going to have the same thing. So as long as we're doing the same thing to the numerator and the same thing to the denominator, we will have an equal fraction, but of a different form. So if we divide the 4 by 2, we're going to get 2 in the numerator. If we divide the 10 by 2, we're going to get 5 in the denominator. So we're saying then by reducing 4 over 10, its lower form is 2/5. So that's the basic start of fractions. We're going to want to go into a lot more depth, but I think it's important at least to start off recognizing what a fraction is. The denominator, again, represents the equal number of parts that a whole has been divided into. The numerator then represents the portion that we are representing with that fraction. In the case of the pizza, it was 1/2. In the case of the piece of candy, it was 1/4, or one of those 4 pieces. In the case of the time, 3 o'clock represents 3 out of 12 equal parts, and that was then reduced to 1/4. We're going to go, probably have 3 or 4 more lessons on fractions because it's a pretty extensive topic. Thank you.